Alright, so what are we doing today?
We're fixing this truck because it has a whole lot of gunk in it, like all these chips.
Yeah, the chips that are down there.
And it won't move very well.
Yeah, here. Put the check key in it. And show them how. There it's on top. Can you see it? Here. Alright. Okay, turn it.
Wrong way, right?
Here, it goes both ways. It's just stuck, right? So why do you think it's stuck?
Bunch of chips inside it.
There's a bunch of gunk in there, right?
Kind of brings us to different kinds of chips.
Oh, okay.
There's these stringy kind, and there's these really teeny kind, and there's the squiggly kind.
And you think the ones that are in the chuck are what kind?
The really tiny kind.
The dusty kind, right?
Yep.
And that's what's making it jam up? We think there's a bunch of gunk in it?
Yep.
Alright, well, we'll look at it. This is my bucket I dump all the chips and garbage in. We need to dump this out sometime, too.
Maybe even some sawdust in there, too.
No, I don't put sawdust in there, mostly metal. So, yeah, we got this thing, and it's all stuck. And I use this a lot. It's not a great chuck, but it's the one that came with the lathe. And I don't want to buy another one because they're expensive. So we're going to work on trying to clean it and see if I can use it some more, right? So we need to get it off of here.
The lathe, because there's like this many gears in the lathe. So
well, we've had to rebuild that too, right?
Jammed.
I had to take that apart and fix that once too. It's all fixable. We'll see if we can get this fixed. If I can't get it fixed, we'll have to buy a new one. But I think in looking by how much gunk is right here, see all that?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess it's just clunked up with a bunch of garbage. So hold on to this for a minute. We need to get this off of here. So I don't have a brake. So the way I get mine off of here is I turn it a little bit. Hard to do with one hand. Put my back gears in. And then I put the wrench in this thing. Tug. There we go. And that knocks the threads loose. I don't think I can do this one hand. I'm going to end up pinching my fingers here. Look at the old camera. Do you see what you're looking at? But we don't want to drop this. If we drop this on these ways, it'll dent them, and that'll make our lathe not great, right? So we want to make sure we don't drop it, and that's why my hand is under. On a bigger chuck, that'd be heavier, I'd put a board or something under so it didn't drop like this. Well, there's our chuck. Let's take it over to the bench where we have other issues. Check out our bench. What are we going to do first?
Clean.
We gotta know where to work on it, right? Alright, well, let's pause our video and we'll clean the bench first. We're kind of lying to them normally, right? When we make videos, we kind of lie to them because we make them believe our bench is always clean, but usually our workbench looks just about like this. And we have to clean it every time before we work on it. But I'm not going to clean it too much today. Today we're just going to clean enough, right? Because I'm still working on all that stuff over there, and I'm working on that stuff there, and I got all these files running right there, so I don't want to clean it too much. I want to lose my parts. So we'll clean it up real quick, and then we'll come back and we'll show them how we're going to do it. Alright, we did some movie magic and we swept off a square, right? Let's get some paper under here. My bench is made out of 2x stuff, and there's a gap here. And we tend to lose stuff in there, so it works better, plus you can see better on the camera, if we put a piece of paper over that, right? And then we can see better, and if I drop something, it doesn't fall through, right? Alright, put her up there. Can you make it?
I think I can make it.
Alright, don't trip on stuff.
This truck is heavy.
No.
So it made me wonder, what the heck is it made out
I'm trying to
of?
get cord out from you, bud. It's made out of steel. This truck is made out of steel, so all the parts are steel. These are hardened so that they don't dent and chip up too bad. Otherwise, they'd wear out real fast, right? If they were not hard steel. So they're hardened metal. This isn't hardened probably, but the rest of it's hardened, and it's got parts in it. So you can notice these are the jaws. Oil coming out of it. That's probably why it's gunked up. So what we got a problem is we need to crank this to get these jaws out of there. And I can already see a bunch. Look at all those jaws. Well, it loosened up. Did you see what I did with the jaws? I went like this. You see that? And see that one's nice and tight? That's the one probably hanging up. So I loosened up all the gunk. You want to spin those out of there?
Yep.
And have to hold it up on top of something. Let me find something to put it on top of. So we can do that, right? Let's put it on top of this. Alright. Crank that open until the jaws come all the way out. I guess before we take them all the way out, we should check something. You see that number right there?
3.
And that one there?
2.
And that one is 1, right? So what happens is these are numbered jaws, and we need to know which ones go where. So if we look at these somewhere on here,
There's a 2.
there's a 3 right there, right? So we need to make sure they're numbered. If we took this apart and they weren't numbered, we wouldn't know where they went, and it'd take a lot of trial and error to get them back. So they're already numbered, so we're in good shape. We got to make sure they go back in the right slots. They're all different.
There's basically just a worm drive in here that has the gear where you put the key, and it just drives those chucks.
It's a screw plate, right? We'll show that too, because we're going to have to clean that. We'll have to clean that out.
As in cash tag, tear it apart.
Well, yeah, it's got to come apart to do that. Let me see if I can find, while you're doing that, see if I can find a brush over here. There we go.
Exploratory surgery. That's the way it works. Oh, here's tightening up.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can, hold on. That one there, feel that, how tight that one is? The other one's wiggle, but that one doesn't?
Yeah.
It's hitting something. Get it or you need to do it?
I think I can get it.
Oh, that's not too bad. It's still turning. It's turning a little bit still.
I can kind of see some gears. You probably can't, but I can see something moving in there.
Yeah, you can see the screw, right? As the screw turns, you can kind of see it. But we had some stinky spray cleaner. I don't see it.
Please don't use the stinky stuff.
I know, it smells up the whole shop, right? I need to get some different. Well, we'll do it the old-fashioned way without stinky spray cleaner. The hard way, right?
Brush.
Yeah, we'll have to brush and clean it. It's all right. We'll make it work. But I got them. Now, when these come out, they should come out in the right order. So 3 should come out first because they go in that order, right? So as you crank this out, this one should come loose. Okay? And then the number 2 one, we still got that one hooked in. Keep going. That one. And then this one should come out if you go further. And that's a clue to how we're going to have to put it back together, right? All right. So all our jaws are out of there. Set those up here so we don't lose them. We have to clean those too, right? They should have another set of jaws, but I only have one set. Usually, see how these close this way? They make a matching set of jaws that go in this way. See, they have jaws that go this way too, but I don't have those jaws. I only have one set of jaws. So if I buy a new chuck, it'll either come with screws that it can attach jaws to, or it'll come with 2 sets. One that goes this way, and ones that go that way. I only have the one set.
They also make soft jaws, which are jaws you can modify.
All right, so I see a bunch of gunk here. Look at that. That's probably not good for the chuck, right? Yeah, that's probably not doing us any good. So let's get this wood chunk out of the way.
What kind of brush do we use?
I'm going to use this nylon brush. So it's got these screws on the back. Ooh, and they're snug.
Sometimes it feels like they're glued, doesn't it? If you have a machine shop, you probably had the same feeling.
Get all those loose. And imagine we look in here, probably going to be quite a bit of gunk. And I think oil. And part of the reason this doesn't work is because there's oil in there.
So we're going to put more oil in when we're
No,
done?
we don't want oil in there. The oil is what's attracting all the gunk. So whoever had this before oiled this, and what happens is the oil gets sticky. And the oil stickiness collects the dirt and the gunk. So you don't want oil in these. You want them to be dry.
Knew it was gear driven.
Yep, so you have this gear, and that's how it works, right? This gear rides here, and that thing's that slot right there, and then that turns this, and that is our screw plate. So it turns that.
Take out the screw plate?
Maybe. See, maybe. A little bit stuck, huh? There we go.
That'll reveal more gunk.
And this is our screw plate. Let me get a paper towel.
And for those machine shop workers watching, the jaws would slip onto here
Yep.
and just spin around on it and keep threading.
Right, they can't spin around. So what happens is when you turn the screw, since these can't move in that groove, that slot that's right here, so what happens when this screws, that screw, they have to move in or out because they're stuck, right? They're trapped between this groove and these, so it makes them have to go in and out like a screw, just like if you were screwing in a screwdriver, right?
Yep. Now, this is basically the same differential assembly with all the gears.
Yep. So what we got to do is we got to get all this oil out of here because the oil is the problem. So let's start with the housing, and then we'll start with each piece we got to put in the housing. What do you think? Plan?
Yep. I was just going to show the viewers what kind of brushes there were. So, the brushes you have with you if you buy this kit is brass, that's medium, and stainless, that's super hard, and nylon, that's super soft.
All right, so we want to get this brush in here. I'm going to use this toothbrush, and we want to get all this gunk. Put your glasses on, silly. We're flinging metal everywhere, right? Shop time is glasses time. Holding up the works, man. Holding up the works. All right, so we're gonna take this brush. We're knocking the stuff out of the teeth here. These are the threads that go on the lathe, so those aren't, we can clean those after with it assembled, but we're gonna go ahead and clean them anyway. And what we wanna do is we wanna get all this stuff out of these grooves, all that metal and dirt and yuck stuff out of there, and then we'll have to dry those out, which is why I was looking for the spray cleaner, right? So ideally, we could spray those with some kind of evaporative cleaner and get all that out of there, but...
Evaporust, perhaps?
No, evaporust is different. That just removes rust. We need something that would evaporate quick, like paint thinner or something that would spray on and then evaporate really fast, right?
You said your answer, paint thinner.
Yeah, I don't want to get paint thinner out here, though. We'll just dry it off with a towel. We don't need to be completely dry. It's going to get dirty again, right? So I think what we'll do is we'll get this paper towel in here. And we'll try to get in there and we'll dry as much of that gunk, oops, and oil and stuff out of there. Because this, when I take this towel out, you see that? Mm-hmm. That's the gunk that's actually making it not work. If this fits really tight together, then just that little bit of gunk will clog it up. This one probably doesn't fit that tight because this is a really old chuck. I've had it for a long time. It came with a lathe and I've been using it for a long time. I don't even remember what brand it is. A Buck, I think. Can't even read it no more. Look, it used to have a label. Right there, used to have a label. Can't even read what it is no more.
Is this really what I should be doing?
Well, we're just kind of spreading around here, not actually making any progress, but you might want to take that towel and wipe it off instead. Towel right there. Towel right in front of you. So we want to get this all cleaned out, and all that oil and stuff out of there, so it doesn't collect dirt so much. And if we needed to lubricate it, we could use wax or graphite or something instead, which wouldn't attract so much gunk, right? Graphite would probably be about best.
Graphite is found in the tip of your pencil, remember?
Yeah, it's a different kind, but yeah. So we're gonna get this all dried out. Plus, you know what else is weird about having oil in a chuck? What do lathes do?
Spit grease.
You spin, and if we had this full of oil, what do you think could happen? It'd spray oil everywhere. So yeah, it'd be kind of messy. So we really don't want that to be that oily. All right, I did this and cleaned off too. See the surface here? That's where they mate together. That's all clean.
I'm
Good
gonna
enough, right?
dry this off.
Well, that you probably need to brush. That's why we have the brushes. See all those little teeth?
Yep.
You definitely want that piece of metal out of that tooth. You see that little piece of metal there?
Yep.
That's what's going to make it jam up. Definitely want that cleaned.
Now we don't have to make this spotless because we aren't that precise.
Well, it's going to get dirty again too, right? I mean, it's a lathe. I do bad stuff on it. I turn metal on it and I kind of get it all gunked up. So it'll get dirty again almost immediately. But if we clean it, it'll work easier and it won't be so hard to turn. And it'll be easier to put parts in it and make the job faster.
This one just needs dried off, I think.
Yeah, you just want to make sure there's no gunk in them.
I'm going to move your jaws for a sec.
Okay. Unless you're the wrong way. It don't go that way. I guess it does. It just goes on the other housing. Alright, let me move. So yeah, that would set inside this other housing. I'm kind of building it upside down here, bud. Let me see if I can. You won't be able to see the chucks move, but it kind of goes in. Get out of there. Kind of goes in this way, but let's dry this off the rest of the way first. Kind of get in there and it'll be stuck, right? Because that's what we're hanging up on. All this dirt that's in here. That's what's making it hard to work, because this is a tight fit between this gear, and if they get stuff in there, it's going to get snug and tight. We don't want that. And then this groove, also the same thing. We can get, see the middle chunks in here? Those will get in there too, and that'll also get it stuck. This is where a spray cleaner would work, because we could get this stuff all sprayed out and washed out. But we'll get it brushed out. It might just take a while to go around the circle a bunch. But all those little tiny pieces of metal is what's causing us our trouble. It's getting bound up. Better?
Good enough.
Yeah, we'll see. I got a little bit right there that doesn't want to come out. Let's get our rag in there and we'll run it all the way around the screw. Wipe out what's left. Round and round it goes.
When she stops, nobody knows.
And it'll stop at the end of the thread, right? And notice this is broke right there. See that? Mm-hmm. That's where someone screwed it out too far, and they have just one little tooth hanging on like this. They had it open too far, and what happened is that when they put a piece of metal in there, it chipped that out, but it's not very bad. That's pretty good. So this is in pretty good shape, other than it's kind of rough machining here. It'd be nice if they'd have machined that a little smoother, but what are you going to do? That's what we got, right? I don't feel any big burrs, so we're feeling around here for the burrs, because we don't want those to hang up either, right? Still got a little bit of a, right there, a little bit of burr in there. Huh. Well, hopefully it'll work better when we're done, right? Might just be getting old. We might just need to replace it. They wear out, right? Alrighty then. So this part here is going to rub onto this part here. See how the two go together? Mm-hmm. It's going to rub like that. So we want to make sure there's no big burrs in here either. Pretty badly machined. You see this big groove? Mm-hmm. That's probably adding a little friction. If we really cared, we could probably smooth and polish that up. But it's been working this long, right? Oh, did we wipe that out? Yeah, that's pretty good. Not too bad. It's got to go in there just right. See this hole? Like this gear has to go in that hole like that. I think we have to actually put it in here because I think it's got a hole right there. See the hole it fits into right there? Mm-hmm. It's got to go in that. Let's clean that hole out too, though. In case there's any gunk in there. Clean that out too.
There's 3 screws in the 3-jaw chuck.
Yep, you can show a 4-jaw chuck in a bit if you want. They're different.
We don't need to take apart a 4-jaw, right?
Can.
I think we should.
They don't come apart the same because the 4-jaw I have, at least mine's not a screw jaw. This is a screw chuck. My 4-jaws aren't screw chuck. They have independent thing, and that makes a difference. See, this one screw works all 3 chucks, all 3 jaws, right? Mm-hmm.
I think we should take apart a 4-jaw chuck
look
today.
at it. All right, so this needs to pop on there and only goes one way. See the holes have to line up. It only goes one way. Let's get our screws back in there.
Getting to look like a chuck.
It didn't take very long, right? They're not hard to clean. It's kind of weird to me that people don't clean them because it doesn't take very long. But I've worked in a lot of shops where these things are just completely seized up with gunk because people don't ever take them apart to clean them.
They clean the rest of their stuff, but they don't clean the chuck. It's amazing.
The factory I used to work on, they used to just dump them in a bucket of mineral spirits. When they stop working, they just chuck them in the bottom and then I guess pull them out and hope it works better. I don't think that's how that works though, right? It's not really clean. Get these snug again.
Should we take apart a giant 4-jaw when we do?
Well, we have a couple sizes of 4-jaws, right? Because they're usually cheaper and they're easier to get and they're more accurate. So 4-jaw for a lot of the stuff, we'll talk about that. There's a lot of stuff that just works better with the 4-jaw. All right, before we put the jaws in it, still pretty stuffed. Look, you feel that? Here, feel it. Turn that. It's rubbing on this screw. Before the jaws even get in there, we're having some rubbing, right? So it's rubbing just on those 2 parts. We might need to get in there and polish that. Remember that surface I showed that was all ate up and nasty looking? Mm-hmm. We might have to get in there and clean that up. Rubbing on that, I think. Let's try something here too. We don't want it to be sloppy. Feel that. What do you think's happening?
It's too tight.
It's too tight. When I put these together, this is clamping it together. Too tight, right? So that means we probably do have room to polish that down, but we don't want to make it untrue. So we'll have to think about polishing it down. We won't do it today. We'll just get it together so it works today because I got some work to do, right?
Maybe we'll even take apart a 4-jaw today.
Yeah. So what's happening is either this is hanging up here, this part here. No, that part doesn't turn. This part's locked in. So it has to be this part here rubbing against this part or rubbing against this housing. Oh. So we're either rubbing here on this part here. You didn't clean that, silly. Was that my job or your job? Somebody didn't do their job, right? All right, get that cleaned up. You can see a little bit of shiny spot. I don't think they can see that on the camera, but there's a little shiny spot. See that shiny spot?
Yeah.
That's where we're rubbing. So let's clean that up. And let's get this cleaned up too. Make sure there's no burrs or anything in it. All right, get her cleaned up. Put her back together. See if we can make it work better. I don't think we're hitting there. See that polished surface there? That would ride against these. I don't think we're hitting there. We'll try it again. We have another temporary option here in a minute we can look at. I think in the long run, we probably need to polish all those contact surfaces. But I've had this apart a couple times to clean it. I guess not this one. I had the other ones apart to clean them. But anyway, they're not hard to get apart, right? We can always take it apart again later if it starts to jam up again. Let's crank it down again and see if it does it again. I think it might just be clamping down too tight on these screws and making too much friction. Let's get her snugged up. And any kind of little dirt that gets in there, it's going to make it even tighter, right? All right, give her a spin and see how it turns. Pretty tight, right? Yeah, that's too tight. Yeah, there's our problem. Either that surface I showed you was all ugly, got turned in by the garbage that was in there and made some bunch of burrs. We might have to polish that off. But for today, because I need to do some stuff later, let's just cheat for a bit. How can we make this looser? If tightening down the screws is causing that problem, how do you think I can fix that?
Put a thin sheet of metal in between it.
Well, metal will be able to be too thick, but you're on the right track. Because this surface and this surface are what clamps together, right? So we want those to be slightly farther apart.
Rubber gasket, perhaps?
We could use a gasket, but let's use something that's not permanent and easy to clean up. Paper. We can take a strip of paper and we'll put her in there. And we'll see if this makes a difference. This isn't a permanent fix, right? This is a temporary fix to see if it's the problem. But we can get her set up and we'll see if this makes a difference. We don't want to go into our gears though. Hey, quit it. Get on there. Need a little, now that I cleaned all the oil off, I need a little bit of oil to stick the paper on, don't I? All right. Paper fell right out. See that? Slipped right out on me. All right. Not hitting, not in there quite right. Something on this gear's not meshing. There we go. I think what we need to do is polish that surface, the one that was all really ugly. I think some kind of metal chip got in there. That gear's not hardened. Some metal chip got in there and I think it just gouged it a bunch. So we'll see if this fixes it, and if this fixes it, we'll just have to take it apart later and polish that. That'll take a long time though, right? Let's see if this makes it better though. That. Yeah, I think we're hitting on that surface there, that really ugly surface. That's where we're hitting on. So let's crank her down for now, and we'll have to take that apart and polish that up. For now, we'll just leave a little bit of a paper shim in there. All right, now we need our jaws in. Do you remember how we go in?
One goes in one, two goes in
So there's number one. So this is number 3 jaw. That's a number 1 jaw. See the 1 on it? So what we're looking for is, see this screw? Right there in that screw, if you turn this backwards, you'll see that end. I don't think they can see that here in the camera, but you'll see that screw end sooner or later. There. See that screw start right there? Right there we got a screw. And if I turn it back just a little bit, no screw, right? So we want to put our number 1 jaw in right at that point. Touch it on there, and then we want to turn it so now it's engaged. And once that's in there, now that jaw's in there. And then we turn it over, and we're going to look for that same screw in the number 2 slot. So we're looking for that tooth to come in right here. It. See that screw?
Yep.
So put the true jaw in there, the number 2. Turn around, slide her in there. Gotta go in the groove. See the C slot? Wiggle it, wiggle it, wiggle it. You just got it bound up, putting it crooked. Same thing, we're gonna turn a little more, and now we're gonna look for that same slot here in the number 3. Right there. Number 3. Back it off, put number 3 in there, turn around. Put it in the slot and wiggle it. Wiggle it. Wiggle it all over. And the same thing, we're going to turn these. Now we want to make sure they all work together. And the way you check them is to turn it all the way closed and see if they close up. So let me get the wood back here. Crank it all the way closed and see if those jaws close up. If they're out of time, then they won't close up. If we missed one tooth, didn't get it straight, it won't close up right, and we'll have to reset them.
Their key keeps falling out.
Yeah, well, it's an old Chuck. The key's a little sloppy.
Is it even the right key?
Yeah, plus you got to turn it a million times, right? A lot of people cheat and they hook like power drills to those, but we haven't done that.
Ah.
I don't think our drill will open up big enough to hit the end of that. If it did, we could vroom it, but I don't think our cordless drill goes up big enough for that.
Tashi might.
I don't think it will. You get her? And I can see already it's going to close okay. See how these are coming up on the housing? Mm-hmm. See how they're almost flush? We'll turn them until they're flush. Watch that one. That one's pretty flush. And we can turn and look. And that one's pretty flush. And that one's pretty flush. So we should close up good. That's going to match. We got all our gears touching, right? So we can just leave it there if you want. Because I'm going to have to put stock in it later. I'll just have to crank it back open, right? So this is a 3-jaw chuck. They all close together with one screw, right? Get the extra paper off there.
You're going to see a little nothing while we go put the chuck on the lathe. And
Well, they can stare at this chuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me go get a 4-jaw.
Get the giant one.
You want the big one?
Yeah.
Why not the little one? It's easier to move around. All right, here we go. This one's heavier, though. All right.
Okay, here we have the big boy chuck.
That one's dirty, too. I don't use the big one very often because it's so big. I usually don't need it. So I usually use the smaller one and put it out there, too. That one's awful big. I usually use this smaller one because it fits most of the stuff I do. This is about as big as our lathe will spin. This is pretty big, really. And that's why it's so filthy, because it just sits under the lathe a lot and gets...
So let's take it apart to clean it.
Well, this one doesn't have as many parts. So it has these screws here, but these screws don't really do anything but hold the back plate on. And this is the back plate that's threaded to match our lathe, right? Mm-hmm. So those 4 screws you see, all they do is take this off. There's no guts like that one. So the way these work, this one's going to be easier to move around. The way these work, and this one is actually a south bend. Getting a little rusty, you probably ought to wax her up, oil it, right? Mm-hmm. This is actually a south bend one. So the way these work, they have the same kind of chuck key problem. That one goes in the big one, right? This one has this chuck key. And what happens is each of these jaws move independently. See how that jaw moved, but these ones didn't? So what happens is I can put weird shaped stuff in there. If I needed to lock in like this to turn in the lathe, I can actually attach this, and whereas the 3-jaw really only holds round stuff good, right? So it gives me a few more options. Plus they're more accurate. So what we're going to do, just going to thread this out of there.
But it can only clamp square things.
No, it can clamp around stuff too.
Mm.
So we're going to take it out of there and see it has the same things. There's a screw here, and that matches this screw here. And this screw won't come out because see how it's stuck in that little pin thing, that little groove? That keeps it in there. But these screws will stay in there, and then when you put this in there, the same thing. It slides on these tracks, and then when you thread it in, it threads in. We don't have to time these. Working too hard, aren't we? Now these are the same things. If these get clogged up, when you try to turn those, you'll be like, "Ugh," and it makes it really hard to adjust stuff. So those work that way. And this one's just a bigger one, right?
Let's take the big one apart.
Well, like I said, don't come apart. Mostly we just take these out. We can clean it, I guess. This one, the screws come out, though, so I guess that's nice. See? Chuck, or the jaw, and then the screw, right? So it's kind of nice that those come out. And this one rides in a groove. See how it fits in that? Yep. And that's what makes it pull the jaw with it, because this rides on that, and then that rides in that thread. So I guess we can look at this one. Get them all out. Goes the other way.
I've been working on the railroad with this gigantic chuck. Does seem like it can hold a train part, doesn't it?
It's big. It's not. They make them way bigger. This is still not that big. I don't remember. I think this is like an 8-inch truck, maybe a 10. I don't remember. Yeah, 8-inch. They make giant chucks. Our lathe won't spin much bigger than this, because see how that jaws out like this? So we can only fit stuff between this jaw, but as this sticks out, our bed is only 12 inches. So only 12 inches, so we can only spin something that big from here to the 12. And then it'll start hitting their carriage anyway, so we really can't go much bigger. This is about the biggest truck we want. We might be able to get a 10 on there, but it'd be limited use. So this is about as big as I need to go. And I still don't use it very much because it's too big, right? Most of the stuff we spin fits in the smaller chucks.
I really am starting to feel like I'm working on a train.
One more.
Chuck might be getting out of camera.
I think you're barely. They can't see you turning the handle, but you're in there. Ready? But you don't have room to turn. You got to have this off the edge so you can turn it, right? Now these probably aren't numbered, but they are numbered on the chuck. See on the side? Mm-hmm. It's not as important for these because they work independently. So you can kind of get them in there in the wrong spots, and they're fine because they all adjust independently. Like the other chuck we had them exactly right. This one doesn't matter so much.
The key fits in the screw socket.
Don't strip out the screw. Those are important bits. We don't want to mess those up. These are hardened jaws too. So usually you have a set of soft jaws and hard jaws, and I only got the hardened ones. I need to retool the shop, right? Better tooling in the shop.
Put all the gunk in there.
Yeah, I'll get a towel and clean it off. One of these paper towels over there and clean her off. And wipe all that gunk off of there. Mm-hmm. Get them all cleaned up so they'll work better.
Might need the wire brush for these teeth.
Boring, cleaning. Fun to watch on video, I bet. What do you think?
Not.
Yeah, probably not too exciting.
At least we can say something just so that to keep them from falling asleep.
Well, maybe they need a nap. I need a nap.
Oh, don't tempt me. Reminds me of lunch.
These 4 screws here, all they do is hold that back on, and you can change the back so it fits different lathes, right? We need this to fit our lathe, so down there. I don't think these jaws are numbered. I didn't see numbers. The spots are. The reason these are numbered is so that when I'm adjusting stuff in it, I can pay attention to what slot I'm on, but the jaws don't really matter that much.
I'm on a roll with this.
I reckon. Just making a mess. Sure you're not just making a mess.
It's a perfect
Pretty grubbly.
keep your brush straight thing holder.
Yeah, this one needs clean, but I don't use it very often, so.
A lot of ucky, greasy stuff
Yeah.
on there.
Well, I keep it under the lathe. It probably should be kept in a cabinet or on a higher shelf so that all the stuff from the lathe doesn't keep falling into it. But we have a limited amount of space here, right? That's just stuck on there real good there.
How come they have this black spot on them?
Well, that's where it spins if you look at how it works in this jaw. When it sets in that jaw, look where it rides on the jaw. You see? So it pushes against this surface, but it's never pushed against that surface. You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the original finish of the part, and it's never polished it off. Only polishes off where it pushes. This one says it is a Watson Toledo chuck. Seems to work all right.
Never heard of that
Yeah,
brand.
I mean, I think I've heard stuff from Toledo. Toledo used to make a lot of good, out of Ohio, we used to make a lot of good stuff, but I don't know if Watson is a really good brand or not. It seems to be all right. I never had any trouble with this chuck. It does what I need it to do.
Wish I could go where this truck was made, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio, I hope.
Well, Toledo, Ohio for this one, not Cleveland.
We ever been to Toledo, Ohio?
We've never been Toledo or Cleveland, I don't believe. We've been to Ohio, but never those two towns, right? All right. So this one we're not going to worry too much about cleaning it because you know what? It still works all right, right?
We don't ever use it anyway.
Well, I do use it. Not very often though. It's probably good enough for what I do with it. It's handy to have.
Goes in first, the screwy job.
They kind of got to go in at the same time, right? So the screw has to go in the yeah, it has to go like that, right? And then you have to kind of start the grooves. Yeah, they kind of got to go in at the same time, right? So you got to get this set in there. And then you got to start the jaw. And then you got to kind of thread this in there so it takes the jaw with it.
I'm a cheater, so I'm using the key.
Well, they all got to go back in enough to stay stuck, right? If we had a spray cleaner, or even one of those cleaner table things, we should get one of those someday. You know what? We could really clean these up and make it work like good and brand new, but I don't have one of those cleaning things. So. We'll give it a once over, and it'll sit down there under the lathe for another year or two before I need it again. What do you think?
Maybe even 10 years.
Well, I use it occasionally. It's not that bad, but.
I'm gonna roll a hole in your bench with this key.
Well, let's do this. Let's set it up on top of something. Let's use this bench block.
Bench block for.
For putting stuff on.
I thought it was an old train roller.
Well, it is, but I use it for bench block. Sometimes I need to bang on stuff. Is it getting tight? Yeah, if it's getting tight, that means there's gunk in there. That's not too bad. Yeah, right there, it's getting pretty snug, isn't it? That means we're hitting gunk. That's what we'd have to clean out, right? That's that gunk that we're trying to clean out. If we had a cleaning table, that'd come out real nice, wouldn't it? We don't need to close it up all the way, though. Just close in order.
Hi.
Watch out, knock it off that block. It's heavy. Come back here and hold it for you. So a good flat base, so you'd have to slide it way off. It comes all the way over here without falling off. But if you slid it off of there, it could hurt, right? Is that one turning better? We probably ought to get some spray cleaner and clean those carburetor cleaner or something. Clean all those grooves out so the screws work better. I think the South Bend one works a lot better because I use it more, although it's still getting pretty rusty. All right, spin it. Get the next one. That one's not too bad, right? Spinning pretty good.
Yep.
It's just got some junk in it. But if we clean it, this is going to work better too. Got stuck?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hitting gunk. Yeah, that needs cleaned. We'll have to take this apart and clean it. But I don't think we have enough time in this video to do it. That's how they should work, right? Nope, there it got stuck. Every time I hit something like that, that's the gunk in those threads. So we need to take this apart and clean it, but we need to get some cleaner, some spray cleaner to get in there, some solvent. Get in there and clean all that up.
You don't want to drop that thing on your toes.
No, that's the problem. Remember I told you when you're taking off the lathe to be careful? Because if you drop this on the lathe or even on your foot, that'll hurt a lot. You don't want to do that. Yeah, that one's really stuck. I definitely need to clean that before we use it. All right, let's put it back under the lathe.
And then that brings us to this little tiny chuck from the mini lathe. Now
That one works different though.
gotta do this to it.
Yeah, can you see how it works different?
Yeah, the gear is probably this middle section.
Because this one, when we took it apart, it had a screw we turned here with a pinion gear, right? A bevel gear.
But this
So
one
let's turn the bevel gear.
has a middle section that is the bevel gear.
This you turn the screw directly. So this screws this turns the screw on that plate. This one, this is part of the screw plate directly. So we're turning the screw plate automatically when we turn this outside ring.
This has this.
And yeah, it uses, it's not really the right size pin, but you put those in those holes, and that allows you to snug them up, right?
Little tiny chuck.
But this has the same problem though. If we take these jaws out and don't get them in the right order, then they'll not fit. We have to get them in the right order. This one is a Union chuck. This chuck I've had for a long time. It's kind of, I don't like the way it works. Like it's hard to get it tight with this without clamping it with something, which I don't like to do.
This might be the maximum clamp, this bolt
Well, I
head.
think it'll clamp that. See if we can get it open more. It'll clamp that, I bet. Pop it in there. A little more, right? But yeah, we're increasing the maximum because you want to make sure, see how these are sticking out? You don't want those to stick out too far because remember we talked about the teeth?
Yeah.
You don't want one tooth hitting. If only one tooth hits, then you can break that tooth off. And that won't do anybody good. And then it's wreck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll clamp that. Hey. And then we could spin it in the lathe. I already kind of cut that one off and spun it in a lathe. I used it for something. I don't remember what. This one doesn't too bad. It turns pretty good. So we probably don't need to clean it. It looks ugly, but it still works good, right?
And that might be the end to another sort of weird video.
Why is it weird?
Because not many people have this big of a machine shop.
Well, I think people do. Not a lot of people make videos. I guess the average home, maybe the average home shop doesn't, but I bet a lot of people do. Or they know other stuff, right? Maybe they got better tools or different kinds of tools. I know that some people have like 3D printers. We don't have one of those. One of those 3D printers.
Yeah, we need one of those.
So it could be that they just have different stuff that they know how to do than we know how to do, right? All right.